Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT Pacific Week 2 power rankings. I'm going to be ranking all 11 teams into these 5 tiers. Um, to be honest, there wasn't a ton of movement for me this week. I think a lot of the games went as I expected. There were some upsets, obviously, namely the DFM game, as we'll get to. Um, but yeah, so this shouldn't be too long of a video. It should be a lot of, oh, well, this is kind of what I expected. This is what happened this week, everything like that. So if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Go check out my other videos, my power rankings for the other two regions, and then my pick'ems that'll be coming out the day before each region starts. So yeah, let's get right into it. So starting in the bad tier, on their own, we have GE. Um, I mean, Icebox looks like the only map that they have any clue how to play. Um, I mean, yeah, they won it against Zeta because Zeta looked bad on it, and that's pretty much it. The other two maps, they just did not put up any sort of fight. Maybe Ascent, you could say they did some cool stuff. I think there were some nice rounds on Ascent, but overall, just I think a lot of the rounds they won were just mistakes by Zeta in that game. And then DRX, I mean, I don't think DRX was even trying to show stuff. They didn't need to against GE. But my main concern with this team has always been the firepower. And I think now, I think that starts with Polvi, who is not winning a ton of fights in the first place. But at the same time, there were multiple moments between the two games where he's playing Raze and he has at least a satchel and they're doing an exec into like maybe B site on Lotus. This is the one that I remember specifically. And he just dry runs through the smoke instead of satcheling out or waiting for a flash or doing anything. And his entire team just gets mowed down behind him and they all die. Like, I don't know. And then Benkai, who was advertised to be like a really good Sentinel player, um, because he's not IGLing, just wasn't true. Never believed that myself. I thought it was possible, but it's like that wasn't even going to save them. Um, I think the only decent player on this team is Blaze King, and he's not even playing his best role. So no firepower whatsoever, and I don't think the calling and the mid rounding and any of the ideas at all will like adjust for that. I mean, compensate for that. That's what it is. That's the word that I was looking for. And yeah, I don't know. It's just this team is in a weird spot. The next up here in the not bad but close to it tier, which is like this team is better than Global, but they're still not a good team. And that's where I have Bleed coming in at number 10. I thought their Lotus looked good, honestly. I thought the calling, like the macro on that map, looked very good. I thought Ye's Rays, specifically on that map, looked very nice. Wasn't anything remarkable, but it had some good moments. Overall, his stat line wasn't that great on it either, though. So I don't know. But you get to Bind, when you get to Icebox, these comps just don't make sense. And I'm going to start with Icebox because I think it's the more self-explanatory of the two. The solo harbor just is shit. You have no stall on the defense outside of a KO nade and killjoy mollies, which you need more than that to like stall out plants and everything like that, and even for post plants and everything like that. Yeah, the harbor is more flexible in terms of his wall, but like realistically, it just wasn't good. And then the bind comp, I like the concept of the comp actually does make sense, but they just never like were able to execute any kind of trap play. And it was just I mean, the breach ended up being useless partially because there were multiple times, like I think there was like 5 rounds in a row on their defense side where Darion didn't have full utility, but he had a gun. Um, didn't make sense to me, but whatever. Like like there were multiple times where he opted into full armor and a vandal instead of half armor and full util. Like he had one flash with the full armor, um, which was really annoying to me. But yeah, as I said, yay. I thought the Rays looked good. Not great, but it was good. And I think the Jet was fine. I think he wasn't put into the best spot, personally, but I think with more time, he'll get into better spots and everything like that. The Zest Gecko, man, that shit was not hitting. I thought it was fine, um, but it wasn't like good or like even close to his fade, which honestly, you'd rather have his fade or even him playing Sky on Bind instead of the Gecko in that case. So I don't know. Then Retla and Darion were at best. Like I don't really think they had too many good moments. Despite, I mean, they were just like solidly bleh the whole game, and not much more than that. And then I thought Scary had a decent performance individually. I don't think it's like his best game. Hopefully, this is what his standard will be for the rest of the year while IGLing, but I don't know. I don't know. I could see this being like a peak for him, which is not ideal. Now, onto our frisky tier, where we are going to be starting. Let me hit the right page. With DFM, who got their first win in the franchise league. I mean, May is just the GOAT. I loved him coming in. I thought he was very good. I just didn't know how well he would be set up to look good in this system, and he has. I mean, holy shit, he looked good on the Rays. I want to see him more on the Jet, because I thought that was his main strength coming in. But dude, it's just night and day the difference between this team and honestly even the kickoff team. I thought Medusa also had some really, really insane rounds that kind of pushed them to win Ascent and Sunset on the Viper. Like, there were just some kills that blew my mind what he was doing. This team always felt like they were just in a pack together, so ready to trade each other out. And I don't know, it's good from this team. It's nothing like unbelievable. Like I don't know how far this team is actually gonna go. Like I don't like I still have them what is this, ninth? So are we really talking about like a playoff, possibly international contender? No. But I think we can be talking about like a team that maybe can get some upsets here and there. Maybe will do some things, but inevitably will need some kind of roster changes at the end of the season. And yeah, I just I don't know. This team is genuinely good. They had some really nice ideas, kind of more ahead of the meta than they are behind it. I don't know how much these comps are going to work down the line once they start playing them multiple times and teams get to watch their VODs. That being said, I think they have a good amount of individual talent. Like Anthem, Neth, and hold on, I just need to double check the roster just to make sure I don't say. And I think it's OCs or something like that. I genuinely don't know how to pronounce his name. Um, oh, Cease. Okay, there's no O. I'm stupid. Um, yeah, they all look like fine players. They didn't like blow me away by any means. But they were all solid. And then if you have May and Medusa popping off, like you don't really need too much more than that to be a solid team. Then next up we have Talon, who had a really, really weird week. I thought on Bind and on Icebox, I think it was against Bleed, they looked very good. They looked like a solid team. I was actually going to bump them up a spot here. But then they played against Genji, and they put Lene in. And even though I still think they looked about like the same team, and Surf coming in here looked good, I just don't get how this team is going to like be super consistent when they're swapping their roster around all the time. So that's why they have to stay in this frisky tier. I think they're going to be in this tier the whole year, honestly. As long as they're making 6-man roster shit like they did last year. That being said, Surf coming in, he did look good on the Sentinel. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I just would rather, like, if they're gonna sub Lene in, why not just keep Surf on the Sentinel and swap Ban out or something like that? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. The role swaps here I actually thought were pretty good. Like Jet Boys on Smokes looked good. Uh, I thought Cruz on Initiator looked fine, but I thought the calling looked better, so it didn't matter. And then Gov, I mean, played pretty well as he did in kickoff. I don't think it was like the absurd performance he put up against Team Secret the first time, but he was still very good. And I don't know, man. These NA duelists are unreal. Some of them with just the raw mechanics and everything. Moving on now to Team Secret, a team that I had supposedly put way too low and I was disrespecting coming into the year, but they're so mid. They're so mid at everything. Like, I think they have nice ideas, but they just play the standard comps on every map, and it's so boring and readable every time for this team. And I just don't know how you really get by that. Like, obviously, playing the standard comps are fine, but I just I don't know how far you're going to get playing it on every map, especially when you don't have any standout individual talent outside of Envy. I think Jeremy, while being a good race player last year that would swap back and forth every now and then, I just don't think his jet was good enough or is good enough, period. I don't think he's a good enough duelist player to take you anywhere, really. And I don't know. Jesse Vash, I think, is a good mid rounder and a good IGL. I think there's a lot of solid stuff here, but I don't think there's anything to really push them over the hump. I think this is more of a gatekeeper team. I don't know if the frisky title necessarily um, dictates like how I actually feel about them. Like I think they can punch up and beat teams like DRX, maybe T1, uh, maybe I don't think they'd beat Paper X. I think they just get diffed. Like RRQ, who they played, I mean they had a close loss to. So like I don't feel worse about this team than I did coming in, but I don't necessarily feel better. Like my opinion hasn't changed, and I don't know. Just people yelling at me in my comments. They were wrong. I was right. Just saying that. Now onto the great teams tier, where I do want to clarify that these aren't like great teams in terms of the whole world. It's just Pacific. There are a couple teams that I think can compete internationally, but for the most part, I wouldn't necessarily say most of these teams are international competitors. Speaking of one of those teams, we're going to start with Zeta, who looked better than they did at kickoff. I thought they looked about as I expected, honestly. Depp looked insane. Like, especially on the Phoenix, he was just farming on that shit. And then when it got to like Icebox, he played pretty well along with Laz. Those two were hitting the whole game, and everyone else played pretty solid. Like, good solid Valorant. Didn't like have too many like big mistakes, I don't think, which you're gonna start to expect from this team. I do think their Icebox is still really worrying. Like they need to ban that map. I don't know how you do anything else there. Um, I'm not like boosting up their stocks. Like the reason they're going down here is I think there's just teams passing them up. But I do want to see them play maybe one of these teams ahead of them, whether it be Paper X, Gen G, like T1, DRX, those kind of teams. I want to see them play one of those teams and see how well they do against that. And I mean, if they get destroyed, then they'll move down. Kind of similar to how 100 Thieves was for me when I talked about that. So yeah, I don't know. Just I'm kind of in wait and see mode with Zeta in terms of whether they can compete internationally, maybe. Uh, and yeah, moving on. Next up, we got RRQ, which is another team where their star duelist went insane. Jemkin was so much better than at kickoff. I thought he was kind of definitely underperformed my expectations, but I think he was just kind of getting settled into the team and everything. The fundamentals on this team are really, really good. There's always somebody with somebody else to trade when they're swinging something. It's always 2, 3 guys at a time. Not really taking too many dry, bad peaks. I do quite like the role switches here. I think Zephyro is fragging a lot better. Obviously, Elmimore playing worse. I think Estrella played a little bit worse as well on the smokes than you'd expect. But honestly, if Estrella is going to be like secondary calling, I think it's fine for him not to be fragging as much.
um, and to leave like I don't know. Elmy Moore is the one piece that I think is very upgradable. Flipshooter had a map where he went insane against Team Secret, and then obviously, yeah, as I said, Jemkin played really well. Just another team that I'd want to see play against some tougher competition, but we'll just have to see. Like they went toe to toe with Team Secret, and we're kind of pretty even with them. So I want to see them kind of punch up a little bit more. Then at 4 we have T1, a team that I've just been low on uh, this whole time. Like, yeah, sure, they have really good roster on paper. I do like a lot of these players. Execute and Rossi played pretty well. I think Izu's also a really good player. And I think a lot of what this T1 team's strengths are is very like prominent. Like the team fighting, everything like that, like the individual play, I think is very, very good from this team. But when it comes down to maybe some of the calling, which I think was a big reason why they lost to DFM, especially on Ascent, the attack side calling on that map was horrendous. Some of the worst I've seen in quite a while. And I don't know, that always concerns me. Like they always are trying to, like every time they have an eco, they're always trying to fight heavy over one area of the map with like 4 people and chucking all their util into one spot and stuff like that. And it just gets super readable from teams. And then yeah, the other thing is like Carpe as an individual is fine. And then the other individual that I am a little bit worried about is actually Saya, who once or twice a game will just make the most brain dead play of all time. Like, just genuinely, like, what are you even doing? Like, I don't even know what he was seeing in that moment, kind of thing. And that's just not gonna cut it for a team that's hoping to maybe win Pacific. Just not gonna cut it. So I'm not panicking about T1, obviously, because I have them 4th, but there are definitely very bad vibes with this team for me. Then at number 3, a team that I was told I was putting too high so often was DRX. They just looked really good with a lot less practice than they should have, like doing a lot more stuff on the fly. Honestly, letting stacks IGL more, which is kind of weird. Like you'd expect, oh, DRX with a lot of less set stuff, they'll look a lot worse because that's what they mainly rely on. But like when they let stacks actually call, it looks good in these games. So I don't know. I don't feel like there's a huge upgrade from now until, or from kickoff till now, as people maybe might be saying. Like, I don't know. I thought this team looked pretty good at kickoff. They could have beaten Genji, realistically. I don't remember the scoreline of that game, but I still thought there was a world where they would beat Genji. And then I like the role swaps here, honestly. The Bane Omen definitely can use some work, but that should get better over the course of the season. The Foxy 9 Sentinel, dude, when he's playing the Killjoy and the Cypher, he looks good. So that's a really good sign for this team. I think that's probably his best role. And dare I say he looks better than Flashback, or at least has more promise than Flashback on that role. All right, and then quickly here, we'll go through these international contenders. I just have it the same order that I did last week. Paper X and Genji at the top. Paper X number 1, Genji number 2. We'll talk about Genji a little bit first. Played against Talon, looked about the same, if not maybe a little bit worse, but that's probably because they were just coming back, probably not practicing too much. Just taking a break kind of thing. And yeah, they looked fine. I mean, I want to see them play against better teams, and we'll get that this week because they play Paper Rex, who have number 1. There's a little bit more to talk about with them, I think. Overall, I do think Jing himself individually didn't play that great for his standard, at least. But in terms of overall as a team, I think everyone's role was so much more well defined, in kind of like what they're doing round to round and everything like that. So I like that a lot better for this team. I think they're going to be so much better than they looked at Madrid, and possibly punch up into the finals, like number 1 spots. I don't know if they're necessarily going to win the next event. Like, I don't think they should be favored to do that. But I think, again, as we said coming in, they went from an upset top 3 to a expected top 3, I think. So with that, those are my Pacific Power rankings for this week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of disagreement, especially with me maybe not moving teams up a lot or down a lot, depending. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But yeah, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.